But it's funny because you had said it, and then I got a text from someone of your ilk saying, "Hey, are you watching Colston Loveland tape?" And I was like, "No, I'm not." And they were like, "You should." And I was like, "Oh, okay." So having that, and then the Bears ending up drafting him and him having the season, it looked like it got off to a little bit of a slow start with him. But then as he healed up, we saw a player that could be very dangerous for a very long time.
Yeah, great player. And I don't want to give myself too much credit. I think sometimes we overcomplicate football. We overcomplicate like what I do for a living is okay, watch football, find the good players, and then if you're watching the NFL, it's easy to slide them into those schemes. And when I watched Loveland, I saw Sam Laporta, and I think pretty much how he was used, especially down the stretch. But both he and Luther Burden, they were my guys last year, and I think I understand Ryan Poles is probably reading my mock drafts. Thank you, Ryan. I appreciate that. But those were the two players that I wanted for this offense. And it's we saw it. It wasn't every week, it wasn't great, but I think we are way too quick to judge rookies in the NFL. Obviously, look at the judgment around Caleb Williams in his rookie season and even the first part of this season. We're way too quick to expect greatness from those guys. When I'm evaluating rookies, I want a Thanksgiving on. If you make an impact before Thanksgiving, that's just extra. But it's really Thanksgiving, the rest of the season. That's when you start to get comfortable. That's when you're acclimated. And both Colston and Luther Burden were great from that stretch on.
Yeah, I'm thinking about the seasons because we watched it so closely. Because Matt, we had a good time this year. We had a really good time this year. But when Loveland really started to emerge, I'll never forget when Ben talked about his work ethic and talked about his mind and just how well he's been doing. And then he said, and his route tree has grown accordingly. It's like, well, there you go. So in part, they don't ask too much of rookies until they know they can trust him, right? So that makes all the sense in the world, your Thanksgiving timeline.
That's the smart way to do it. Instead of asking these guys to come in and drink from a fire hose, give them a straw, like let them learn a little bit and then add on to it. I think where we do make mistakes is by expecting way too much mentally, physically. Let's think about it, especially a player like Holston Loveland. Yeah, he had some injuries, but a lot of these guys are coming off a long college football season. And like, so this year, Ohio State players played 16 games. Uh, Indiana players, 16 games. So you've got that stretch, and then you go straight into draft prep. You're at the Senior Bowl, you're at the Combine, then you have your pro day, you have rookie mini camp, training camp. Like you almost have like a year and change where you're just running nonstop. And then, oh, by the way, now you're adjusting to life in the NFL where it's a job. You're doing it 24 hours a day. The expectations are higher. The playbooks quadruple the size of what you're used to. You have lifts, you have nutrition goals you have to hit, and also you're trying to be an adult at the same time. So I just think, and we're going to see it this year because this next draft is really pivotal for Chicago. It's important for them to stay on top. They got to hit defensively in this upcoming draft, but I think it's keep that in mind. We don't expect rookies to come out and have 12 sacks. If they do, it's that's just beyond expectations.
Matt Miller works over at ESPN. He was at the Senior Bowl, and on Monday morning we woke up and we looked at your mock draft, Matt. And what I love to see is that someone knows the team they're discussing. Down at 25, you got the Bears taking an edge rusher. In the second round, you've got them taking a safety. Those are needs of consequence on this team, so you've done your research. Tell us about the edge rusher that you had the Bears mocked to, and if there are others that you considered.
Yeah, this is a great edge class. So I had Zion Young from Missouri who was at the Senior Bowl and had a really good week. I put him in there. I think the key is finding someone opposite Montez Sweat who has more of a power element to their game, someone that can be an edge setter in the run game. Zion is 6'5", 262 pounds. He could play on the left or right side of the defense. He has length. That showed up in Mobile. It also showed up during his time at Missouri. So he'll use a long arm to lock out offensive tackles, but he does have enough agility to get around the corner and make pressures in the pass game. There were expectations of Missouri this year that Damon Wilson, the transfer from Georgia, would be the guy. He would be the tone setter. He'd be the elite edge player. Zion Young outplayed him pretty quickly and had a great season, which has kind of propelled him up boards. I think he's a lock as a top 40 player. So to get a three-down edge player at 25 definitely fills a need, right? That's a huge need for this team. Getting balance on the defensive line is key. Also getting younger, cheaper, and having that upside of somebody that's 22 or 23 years old. But this is Such a good edge class. To answer your question, like other guys that were considered, yes, I think TJ Parker from Clemson would be in that mix as well. I had him off the board already. I think to the Cowboys at pick 20. Um, I would say that the guys like Cassius Howe from Texas A&M, more of that small speed rusher, not really a true fit for what my personal belief is that this team needs, but it is we're going to see a lot of edges in that cluster of 20 to 32. Those picks, it's going to be a lot of edge players because that's where the strength in this class is.
And the safety in round 2, why him to the Bears? What kind of safety is he, and any others you might have considered?
Well, I mean, the Bears have 5 safeties that are free agents. I don't know. I don't know if you guys have talked about that a
Plenty.
lot, but it is. So if you're going to do a mock draft, go ahead and put safety to the Bears because they've got to figure something out there, right? AJ Halsey is just a playmaker. That's what he has been for LSU the past 2 years. He had 8 picks over the past 2 years. Every time you watch LSU play, you're going to see him doing something on the back end, whether it's a pick in a big game, coming downhill as a tackler. So I think he is a versatile safety, but at 6 foot, 222 pounds, he can play in the box. Like he can be more of that, true strong safety, but he has range. He has great length. He's a really good tackler. He had 90 tackles this year, I think 75 the year before. So there's a lot to like in his well-rounded game. LSU's got a pretty good track record of putting safeties into the NFL, but go back and watch him against A&M. That was the game that in my notes, it was just like, number 13, number 13, number 13. It was like every play, it felt like was the AJ Halsey show. He had double-digit tackles in that game. So he can play in the box. He can be an enforcer there. He can match up with tight ends. But there's also plenty of times, especially in the red zone, where he's making plays on the ball and can be someone that'll flip the field for you.
Matt, considering what it is that you do and how coaches and executives in college and players and ex-coaches have talked about the calendar, what is the best calendar proposal that you have heard to make this better for everyone?
Yeah, I mean, I like the idea of starting a week earlier and eliminating some of the buys that happen, especially in the college football playoff. But why are we giving these dudes 2 weeks in between games? And I understand they're students, they're young, but if you're going to run this like they're running it, I think we got to start a week earlier. Week 0 should be week 1. What? I don't even understand the concept of week 0. I don't. Why? Why are we doing that? Just let everybody play week 1, and then we'll go from there. I also think one thing that should be talked about is I don't know why we're playing so many games. We're doing 9-game conference schedule. If you're the SEC, the Big Ten, play 9 games, then do your 3 out of conference games. So we can still get some of the big matchups. Like we've had Texas, Ohio State the past couple of years. Texas, Michigan, things like that. You want to keep those games, but I think 9 games in conference, 3 out of conference, and then boom, we get into the playoffs, and the buys get eliminated pretty quickly to where you could realistically end this thing by January 1st, maybe January 7th or 8th at the latest. And so that's the key for me. Next year, the national championship game is January 25th. Like we will be at the Senior Bowl when the national championship games happen.
God.
That can't happen. That absolutely cannot happen. And it will next year. And it's not going to change because, the hotels and the flights are already booked. The TV stuff is already set. But this thing's got to be moved back a couple weeks. And I think the only logical way to do it, because, no college starts on the same day. It's not like, hey, everyone's in session August 17th. So you can't have that finite start date. But what I think you can do is start week 0 and then cut some of the buys that we have throughout the college football playoff.
You were at the Senior Bowl and you saw Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah, and then 2 days later he was fired. What does that say?
I talked to him outside the elevators on Wednesday night, and he was like, hey, what are you doing? He's like, I gotta go watch film. It's a big draft. Gotta go grind the film.
Oh boy.
I was like, cool. I'm gonna go to dinner. See you later. And then was that Friday or Thursday that he got let go? So like it was Friday because we all left Thursday. So you get home and it's like, oh goodness, like, did they leave this guy on the tarmac at Mobile? Because that's an airport you don't really want to get left at. As someone who's been stuck there before, I mean, it's wild timing. I think if you were going to do it, why wait this long? Especially because we only had 2 other GM openings, so it's not like the candidate pool was wiped out, but as someone that lives and dies with the draft, I'm always such a big proponent of like get your front office in order so that you can go scout these events and have that person who's in charge, have that figurehead who's dictating strategy and philosophy, because it can change pretty dramatically. And they have a strong head coach there. I'm sure Kevin is really going to be even more influential in what they're looking for in terms of scouting, prototypes and things like that. But it is the latest I can remember a GM being fired throughout the process.
Hey, Matt, as I was watching a lot of the college football playoff, because, man, I loved me some Trinidad Chambliss, and then I fell in love with Miami, not the quarterback so much, but a lot of other parts of Miami.
The defensive ends from Miami?
Yeah.
The wide receivers from Miami?
For sure. And also the coach and, like, all the old heads coming back. Like, that was fun. And, of course, just the majesty of Indiana the whole way. I kept thinking as I watched the quarterbacks hold on to the ball and decide whether to do the handoff till so much later than you ever get to choose in the NFL, because the rule about the lineman being able to be downfield, right? Like that rule difference strikes me as being a massive part of what makes quarterbacking so different from the college level to the pro, that these guys are doing different things in terms of looking at a defense and reading a defense all throughout their games. Do you think that's a bigger factor than maybe we've discussed?
Yeah, definitely. I think scouting quarterbacks is always hard. It's never been easy. I started doing this in 2010. It hasn't been easy since then, but it does get harder because of things like that. And I think what I've had to do is focus more on traits and production in context. So, with a player like Fernando Mendoza, there's a lot of RPO, right? A lot of RPO. They're pausing defenses. So what you have to do basically is find the throws where he is throwing, quote unquote, on time. Where he is making more plays where it's boom, boom. The cool thing about Mendoza is he's one of the most accurate quarterbacks I can remember watching. Is it always, does he have the best velocity or the best mobility? No. He's just throws an incredibly catchable, accurate ball. I think I saw a stat, Indiana receivers had 6 drops this year, which is a testament to those guys, but also to how catchable of a ball he throws and the placement that he throws with. So it does make it more difficult. And a guy like Chambliss, who's probably 5'10", and plays out of the pocket a lot. It's a lot of RPO there as well. It's just a matter of, okay, can that translate? Going and looking at offenses in college, how well they've translated to the NFL, whether it be Lincoln Riley or Lane Kiffin or other guys. But so much, this is why quarterback rankings change so much from now until April, because it's not like there's more games happening. Why are we changing these things? Because that, understanding the processing speed, aptitude, football IQ, those things matter so much for these guys that the private workouts, the interviews, the pro days actually do matter. They actually do affect draft stock, because it's coaches and scouts getting around those players in a one-on-one setting and saying, okay, maybe Mendoza ran a ton of RPO, but he knows what he's doing. He can process, he can break things down. Now we've got time to go back and watch the cut-ups of his throws where he is making plays on time, and that makes you either more or less comfortable with the player.
I know I'm asking you to fix a lot of things in this segment, Matt, but I want to ask you to at least give me your perspective on something else that's been going on. And Speegs and I have been talking about it over the last couple of days. It's the hiring practices that have gone on in this cycle of the NFL. You talk to all sorts of assistants from every level. How are candidates for promotion feeling about the way NFL jobs are going?
Well, no one feels great. I can tell you that. And I think there's always going to be that idea of it's so much about like what's hot right now instead of what works. Because I think what works is you have your Ben Johnsons, right? Great on one side, innovative strategies, going to bring a ton of energy. But then you have your other guys. You have like your Mike Vrabel, who's very good on defense, but also is more of a CEO type. You have Mike McDonald, great on defense. So there's like everyone's chasing something. But then, to have Mike McCarthy and no disrespect to Mike, but for Mike that run in Dallas wasn't good. Nothing about it screams excellence to me. So for him to get a shot over a Brian Flores, for him to get a shot over some of these other guys, like an Anthony Weaver, who's now once again going to be a defensive coordinator. I don't understand that at all. And it's crazy. There's 32 owners, and it's up to them to make these decisions. And, I think you can look at the lack of diversity in the NFL ownership group and understand why there's a lack of diversity in NFL hiring practices. It's pretty easy to connect those dots.
Matt, you've been a great partner to the radio show and the station with your embracing of go up and get it. Guwagi as a dedicated scouting trait, a term.
You guys heard of Guwagi? Go up and get it, guys.
I mean, you're the greatest partner we've ever had, and that's why we sent you. That's why we sent you a hat. It's why we'll get you whatever merchandise you want and any sort of favors you want in Chicago. Is it catching on at all? Is there anyone outside of you and me that understands Guwagi and sees the wisdom that we have found in it?
I think we just got to force it. We just got to force feed it to people. You know, we keep using it enough. And there's some guys this year. Malachi Fields from Notre Dame. He's a go up and get it guy. So I think we just have to, you know, edge didn't catch on in a day. It wasn't, you know, people weren't calling defensive ends edge players.
That's true.
That's
in a
true.
day.
Yeah.
We just got to, you know, keep driving it home. And I'll do my part to make sure that happens.
God love you. If there's anybody else, anybody at PFF, I mean, I don't know, because that ought to be something that an analytics site, I mean, maybe Kwesi would have been into it if it had a number attached to it.
I feel like we can get Matt doing it. We could ask Kalen Kaler to start using it, I think. Like, really just talk to our NFL peeps.
Yeah.
And Carmen, have her start saying
that's
it.
Good.
I
That's
think that we can get a movement going if we do it that way.
It's grassroots, guys. It's grassroots. You know, we're not buying likes over here. We're building this thing.
Damn right we are. Matt, as always, we appreciate the time.
You're the best.
Thanks so much for jumping on with us.
Of course, guys. Good to see you.
Thanks.
It's Matt Miller. He's really, really great.